Okay, so let's dive into one of the most pivotal books in the New Testament, the book of Acts. You can kind of think of it as the sequel to the Gospels, but here's the thing. It's a sequel that changes everything.
So what we're going to do here is unpack the story of how the earliest followers of Jesus tackled this very question, and how it totally transformed their identity in the process. It's this incredible drama about insiders and outsiders, and what really holds a group together when it starts to grow.
All right, to really get what's going on in Acts, you have to picture the starting point. This was a small group, and they were defined entirely by Jewish law and custom. They were a tiny movement inside a much bigger world, and they were based right in Jerusalem, the absolute heart of the Jewish world.
So right at the start of the book, Jesus gives them this one last instruction. And listen, this wasn't just some to-do list. It was a roadmap, a blueprint that was going to shape their entire future and, honestly, push them way, way outside their comfort zone.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that this roadmap wasn't just a new idea. It was actually seen as the fulfillment of this ancient prophecy, specifically from the book of Isaiah. The whole idea was that God's plan was always, to restore his people and then let that restoration spread out to the whole world. So Acts is basically the story of that prophecy kicking into high gear.
And you can actually see this laid out in the structure of the book itself. It works like these ripple effects in a pond, these concentric circles. It kicks off right there in the familiar Jewish heartland, then it pushes out to their neighbors, the Samaritans, which, by the way, was a huge cultural leap. And then, boom, it just explodes outwards to the rest of the Roman Empire.
Okay, but before any of that could happen, they hit a snag, a problem. After Judas's betrayal, they were down to just 11 apostles. Seems like a small detail, right? Well, not so much.
I mean, you'd think 11 is a pretty solid number, right? But for the author of Acts, getting back to 12 was symbolically, well, it was everything. It was literally the first thing they had to take care of. So what was the big deal with the number 12?
So here's the key. The 12 apostles were meant to perfectly mirror the 12 tribes of Israel. By getting back to 12, they were making a huge statement. It symbolized the restoration of God's people, but, and this is the crucial part, on a totally new foundation. This one wasn't about your nationality or your culture anymore. It was based on faith in Jesus. I mean, that's a radical redefinition of identity, right from the get-go.
All right, so they've got their new symbolic foundation set up, 12 apostles for a new people of God. But, symbols are one thing. Real life is something else entirely. The whole theoretical idea of expanding was about to crash right into this really practical, really dramatic challenge. What on earth do you do when people who don't look like you, act like you, or follow your rules start showing interest?
See, at the time, there was this huge cultural wall built on Jewish law. Certain foods were forbidden, and there were really strict rules that separated Jews from non-Jews. And we're not just talking about dietary preferences here. These things were core identity markers. They literally defined who was in and who was out, who was considered clean and who was unclean.
And right in the middle of all this, the Apostle Peter has this just wild, shocking vision. He sees this giant sheet coming down from heaven, and it's filled with all the animals that the law he's followed his entire life says are unclean. And then a voice tells him to just kill and eat. You can imagine Peter is absolutely horrified, and this happens 3 times. But then it clicks. Peter realizes the vision wasn't actually about food at all. It was this powerful, symbolic message from God. Think about it. If God is declaring all food clean, then he's also declaring all people clean. The old barriers separating people, they were coming down for good.
So this deeply personal revelation for Peter, well, it explodes into a full-blown public crisis. Because as more and more non-Jews, or Gentiles, that's the term they used, started to believe in Jesus, the leaders of the movement had to get together and make an official call. And this wasn't some minor disagreement. This was a battle for the very soul of the movement.
And the question on the table was crystal clear. To belong to this new community, did outsiders have to basically become culturally Jewish first? Did they have to get circumcised, follow all the laws of Moses, the whole shebang? Or was simply having faith in Jesus enough on its own?
And the verdict that came down from the council was no. The definitive answer was that adherence to the law of Moses was not required. The one and only defining factor was faith, not your ethnicity, not your cultural traditions. And you really can't overstate how revolutionary this was. In the ancient world, your religion was almost always tied to your people, your ethnicity, your land. This decision just shattered that entire model. It created a community based on belief, not bloodline. This was the moment a local Jewish sect officially went global.
So with that decision made, the floodgates opened. It completely unleashed the movement.
And you see this play out in the rest of the book, mainly through the Apostle Paul's famous missionary journeys. He takes this new, inclusive message and spreads it all across the Roman Empire. And it's no accident that the book ends with Paul in Rome, the symbolic ends of the earth they talked about back in chapter 1. He'd done it. The prophetic blueprint was fulfilled.
So, when you boil it all down, the book of Acts isn't just a history book. It's this raw, dramatic story of a group forced to figure out its core identity in real time. It's really a case study in what happens when a community's deepest beliefs compel it to grow beyond its original comfortable borders.
You know, it's a question they had to wrestle with 2,000 years ago, and it's one that is still so incredibly relevant for any organization, any movement, any community today. Think about it. What are you willing to change to welcome new people in? And, at the same time, what are the core things you absolutely have to hold on to remain who you are?